Hi guys, it's Michelle, and today's video is going to be a conspiracy theory video all about time traveling. Time traveling is something that I've found super interesting like pretty much my whole life because I've always thought it'd be cool to go to the future or to go to the past. Obviously, it's pretty dope, and also kind of centers around like a lot of people's theories on the Mandela effect, which I personally don't really think has to do with time travel. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're going to talk about time travel. So let's get into it. For pretty much like ever, humans have been really obsessed with the idea of the future. There have always been super futuristic themed TV shows, movies, even theme parks all around the world because people are so obsessed with the idea of the future being this like super metallic, holographic, like looking vibe of clothing and like flying cars and just basically a bunch of new technology that doesn't occur in our current time. Within the human interest of the future as a whole, time travel has also become a huge part of that. The idea of time travel has come up in countless amounts of films and movies such as Back to the Future, Star Trek, Phil of the Future, and even more. Like literally pretty much every TV show like on even Disney Channel or something like that, like just like some type of way they incorporate time travel into at least like one episode. It's so weird and like interesting how often people really do talk about time travel in the media. So a lot of physicists have talked about time travel and the actual physics behind it and if it is actually possible. Somebody that was really renowned for talking about time traveling was Stephen Hawking. So Stephen Hawking thought that time travel was possibly conceivable, but there would be a lot of issues, including a bunch of paradoxes and just a ton of things that would come up that would make it really difficult at least to time travel if possible at all. In the sense of you would have to travel at the speed of light to time travel, and also you would have to avoid getting sucked into a wormhole or a black hole, and it would just be really complicated to time travel if it were possible. A lot of physicists have different opinions on time traveling as a whole. When it comes down to it, it has to do with the traveling at the speed of light, and this is to travel into the future, not to the past. That's like a whole different ball game. But basically, while theoretically it is possible to go forward if you're traveling at the speed of light, because if you're traveling at the speed of light, like time is like warped. So if an astronaut was theoretically traveling at the speed of light, they could travel what seems like to them 40 years, so they would only age 40 years in time, but by the time they got back to Earth, it would be 60,000 years from when they left. So it does exist in that sense. Obviously, it's like not been done that we, I guess, know of, because it is very difficult to be able to travel at that speed without getting into any other issues. Well, obviously, it's somewhat is possible in that sense. However, that's only traveling into the future, when I feel like most time traveling shows have to deal with people traveling from the future to the past or present day. Like I said, traveling into the past is a whole nother playing field, and it seems like it's almost like harder to understand and harder for a physicist to have come up with a solid theory on how it could actually happen. A lot of work within the physics department as a whole has been done in order to see if time travel is possible within a universe where time traveling theoretically doesn't exist. We didn't initially come to this like universe and have time traveling like just like available for us. If it's like possible to actually create something like a time machine in order to travel from the future to the past. Like I said, there's been a lot of theories on how humans can manipulate time and if it's really possible, but a lot of it has to do with wormholes and how passing through wormholes would actually be able to give the ability to travel to the past. However, the basic like idea of wormholes comes with a lot of issues on time traveling. Like, where do you get a wormhole? How do you like create one that's big enough for a spaceship or like a human to travel through? And like, is it safe? And basically there's like a lot of theory on time travel, but there's not so much research where we would have any definitive answers. So I think that with time, there probably will be definitive answers on if we can time travel or not. At this point, it's never really been necessarily proven or disproven that time travel is a possibility in this universe. At the same time, if time traveling exists in the very far future, then that actually means we would probably have some type of evidence of people time traveling. That's kind of only what makes sense because humans aren't perfect and humans definitely make errors, so there's likely that there would be some type of blips within the universe. So there actually have been many stories of people alleging that they time traveled or even like proof, I guess, of time travelers and interesting things that people talk about all the time when revolving around time traveling, and I find them really interesting, so I'm going to talk about some of them now. So one of the most popular proofs that I've seen comes from a 1928 Charlie Chaplin film. So in this film you can actually see an elderly woman holding something up to her ear that appears to be a cell phone. So obviously 1928 was way before the time of cell phones. A lot of people actually believe that this woman is a time traveler and she actually traveled from the future back to the past, the 1928, and just like wanted to do something like weird, which was be in a Charlie Chaplin film and like kind of like expose herself for time traveling. Which in theory, if time travel did exist, humans are kind of just like extra like that. I feel like they would want to be like, LOL, like look at me in this 1928 film, even though it's the year 2121. The future. I think that's interesting. It could just be like a goof or like a weird thing that happened, but at the same time it really does look like a cell phone, and I don't really know what else it would have been. So the second one is another occurrence like the Charlie Chaplin film, but it happened in 1938, and once again that's far before cell phones were invented. So this one clip of this movie shows a woman walking out of a factory in Massachusetts, and it clearly looks like she's holding a cell phone. Like this one I would say is even more so clear than like the Charlie Chaplin one. This bitch is literally holding a cell phone. Like I don't know what else that could have been. So I think that is really weird that it clearly looks like a cell phone and she's like just holding it, just like walking down the street like, hey, what's the explanation? I don't know. Something super interesting happened, and this one sparks my interest a lot, even though there's not that much like evidence or any real conclusion surrounding it, but it has to do with a man named Rudolph Fentz who was actually killed by a New York City taxi in 1950. So in June of 1950, this man was walking down the street of Times Square and he was basically run over by a taxi. The impact actually killed him, and when he was like found by like the police, the things on him were super strange. First of all, he was decked from head to toe in 1800s clothing. Like it was very clearly 1800s attire, which was super strange obviously because it is the 1950s at this point. He had a copper token in his pocket, which is another thing that wasn't really necessarily used at the time, and also a letter that was from 1876, which is super weird. So allegedly, I don't know how true this is because to me it just doesn't sound true because I don't know why they would do this, but the parent NYPD were confused about the man's attire, so they like looked back into history and saw that a man actually did go missing in 1876 around the same area and just never came back. That'd be like so weird. So like basically the theory is that this man went missing in 1876 because he time traveled and came into the 1950s. So that's crazy. Like that's literally crazy. It's so cool if that were true that like he just like ended up in the 1950s. Sad that he died there, but either way, it's kind of interesting. The last thing that we're going to be talking about is celebrity time travelers, because this is something that I've actually touched on before and you guys find this super interesting, and I do too because it's so weird. But basically a lot of people look at old pictures of people and compare them to modern day celebs, and it basically sparked the theory that some celebrities are actually time travelers, including Nicolas Cage, John Travolta, Jay-Z, Eddie Murphy, Keanu Reeves, Johnny Depp, which I think that one's the weirdest because that guy literally looks exactly like Johnny Depp, Jennifer Lawrence, Orlando Bloom, and so many more. Like there's actually a lot. But I also do think that it is a coincidence. Like I don't know if I necessarily think, oh my gosh, these people are time travelers. It makes me feel like almost more like, oh, these people really just like look like people from the past, because people from certain origins and regions look similar. Like I feel like I look like a lot of other Italian people. Norwegian person might look like a lot of other Norwegian people. Like it's just like kind of like based on places and stuff where you are from. So like I think that that's more so the explanation. So do I believe in time travel? Not really sure. There was a personal experience that I did have with it. In a sense, is basically it was like I was driving and I was like about to pull out of a neighborhood and I looked both ways because that's what you do, and I was making a left and I made a left and I started to go, and all of a sudden this car appeared out of literally nowhere. It like seemed like it appeared out of thin air. It creeps me out to this day because I don't know where it came from. Like I literally looked to see if there was a car coming and there was no cars coming, and it came out of nowhere. There was no other entrances for the car to come from. Like it would have had, like I would have seen it. So like that like scared me a little bit and made me think it was like a time machine or something creepy. Some Back to the Future shit, so I was a little bit scared. But other than that, I'm not really sure if I believe that time travel exists currently. But then again, if it doesn't exist currently, then it probably will never exist. Like, if there was no, you know what I mean? Because if there was time travel invented in the future, then they would have came back to the past, which would have been today or something. So who knows? I don't know, but what do you guys think on the whole theory of time travel? Do you believe in it? Do you think that it's going to be invented in the future? What do you think? But that is it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Like I said, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on time travel. Let me know if you have any theories about it or any personal experiences with it. I would love to know. But that is it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram because I'm always posting really dope ass shit on there. Subscribe for new videos every week, and I will see you guys later. Bye!
Tried to make me go to rehab. I said no, no, no. Yes, I've been black, but when I come back, no, no, no. I ain't got the time, and if my daddy thinks I'm fine.